Hey, what's up guys? My name is Beto and welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to create this beautiful calculator that is capable of doing basic operations like this one. And it has some features like dark mode, for example, and obviously this beautiful UI, as well as small features like, for example, when we put a lot of numbers here, the number gets smaller so we can put more digits until we put 10 numbers. That's the maximum we allow to the user. And now if we press an operation, for example multiplication, we can see that the number is set up here. And now if we make the multiplication, we get the result in green, and we can delete. With this one we can go back to 0 and we can make some operations as well as delete. We can add point, and pretty much that's it guys. So if you want to learn how to create this calculator, stick to the video and let's start. Before we start guys, I want to tell you that this project is going to be here in my platform Code with Beto. I'm going to put a link in the description. So here you can go to projects up here or down here, view all projects, and here you can just click in calculator and you can download the source code here. You can download a zip or you can check the project on GitHub. Here you have as well the link for the design on Figma. So keep that in mind if you want to copy the colors of the application or you just want to run it locally. Keep that in mind and let's begin. So the first thing that we want to do is go to our terminal and go to the folder where you want your project to be. We are going to be using Expo, so I'm going to run the command expo init. And here we are going to put the name of our application. I'm going to name it calculator tutorial. You can put the name you want and hit enter. And here we're going to choose the template TypeScript. You can use the blank for JavaScript, but for this tutorial we are going to use TypeScript. So hit enter, and now we need to wait for the dependencies to install. Okay, after your project is ready, we need to access to the folder that we just create. So I'm going to do cd calculator tutorial, and then I'm going to run the command code dot to open it on Visual Studio. So now I can close my terminal, and here we have our project in Visual Studio Code. Now we can open a new terminal, and here I'm going to run the command expo start to start my development server. Here in the terminal we can press I to open it on our device iOS here, and as you can see our app is running and we can start working now. So I'm going to make this window a little bit smaller, and the first thing we want to do is create a folder for our source. So I'm going to name it source, and inside this folder I'm going to create another folder called components. So here we are going to put all our components. I'm going to go ahead and as well create another folder for our styles, because we're going to have our styles in one file. So inside folder we're going to have components and styles. So now inside styles I'm going to create a file called colors.tsx, because we are using TypeScript. And this file, it's going to have all the colors that our calculator is gonna use. So I'm going to declare a variable called my colors, and I'm going to export it because I'm going to use it in other files. And for now I'm going to paste these colors. You can pause the video and copy them if you want the exact same colors, or you can put the colors you want. And now let's hit save, and I'm going to drop this here, and now I'm going to put it back in there. So it seems like I had styles inside components, so I took it out. We need it in the source. After we create our colors, what I like to do is to make the logic or implement the dark mode in my application. So I'm going to create another folder inside my source file, and I'm going to call it context. We are going to make a context for the dark mode. So inside this folder, let's create another file called themecontext.tsx. And here we are going to create the context that is going to have the value of our dark mode. So let's import create context from React, and down here we're going to export it. Const theme context equal to create context, and we're going to set it light at the beginning. So this is going to be the initial value for our context, light. Now save it, and now we can go to our app.tsx, and down here we can do import theme context, the one that we just created, inside our context folder. And from React Native, I'm going to import a switch. Another thing that we are going to need to be able to update our dark mode value, it's going to be a use state hook. So we need to import use state from React. And down here, we are going to declare a variable called theme equal to use state, and we are going to set it to light. This variable is going to help us to update the value of the dark mode. And now down here, I'm going to put the switch, and the value that it's going to have, it's going to be depending on the theme. So we can say theme equal to light. This means that if the theme is equal to light, the value of the switch is going to be true. And if it's not light, it's going to be false. Now we can set the onChange property, and what this is going to do is that it's going to set our theme context depending on the value that it has already. So if it is light now, it's going to be dark, and if it is dark, it's going to be light. And that's it. Now we can close the switch, and if I save, we can see that our switch is on the screen now, and we can interact with it. So now to make sure that this is working, we can create an array of styles here, and I'm going to put background color to black, so it's going to be 0, 0, 0. I'm going to put that style if the theme is dark, so we can say if the theme is equal to light, then we want the style.container, and if it's dark, we want the background to be black, right? So now if I go here and move the switch, we can see that our dark mode is working, but there's one more problem that we have here, is that this theme variable only works locally or in the scope of this function app, and we need to pass it to the child so that all the application knows if it is dark or light mode. How we can do that? For that, we are going to use our theme context, and we just need to set our theme context.provider and set the value of the theme that we have here. Down here, we just close it, and if we save now, all the React's components that is inside this theme context, it's going to have access to the value of the theme context. I'm going to delete this line, and I'm going to save. And there we go. And what I'm gonna do here, instead of this white, I'm going to change it for our color. So we need simply call my colors, and automatically it is imported up here. We can just access with dot light. That means that we want this white, and that's how we use our colors. So now that we have this working, we can now go ahead and create a new file inside of our components folder, and we're going to create our button component. Here we're going to need access to the context so we can do the style depending if it is dark mode or light mode. So let's import use context as well as touchable opacity for the button and text. We are going to need theme context to know if it is light or dark, and our styles file. And you can see that here TypeScript is yelling at me because this file doesn't exist. So what we are going to do is going to go to styles and create another file, and let's name it global styles.tsx. So here we're going to put all the styles for our application. So we're going to need to import our colors and as well as style sheet from React Native. And down here we can just export a const that is going to be styles equal to style sheet dot create, and down here we can start creating our button style. So So I'm going to put a class just empty for now, and I'm going to close this. And if we go back to our button component, we see that we don't have that error anymore. Now down here, we are going to create an interface for the button props. So we can name it button props. And here we're going to put the props of our button, that it's going to look like this. We're going to have an onPress event. It's going to be a function that is going to help us to set the first and second number to make our operations of the calculator. We are going to have a title, and I put these Boolean variables because at the beginning, as you see on the calculator demo, we have some buttons that are blue and some buttons that are gray. That means that those buttons are not going to change even if it is in dark mode or light mode. Those buttons are going to still the same color. So we need to know what buttons are going to stay the same. That's why we need these variables. And now down here we can just export this component, and inside these parentheses we can put all the props of our button, and here we are specifying the type. I'm going to close this component, and here I'm going to declare a variable to know where the current theme is. We do that using the useContext hook and pass it the theme context. So now every time the theme changes, we are going to know inside every button, so we can change the color. So before we return something, I want to go to the global styles and create some styles for our button. Now I'm going to close this so we can see a little bit better, and I'm going to move this global style to this side. And here, guys, I'm just going to paste these styles that I already have. I'm going to move this quickly so you can see. I have this style for the button blue specifically, and as you can see, I'm putting the background color to the blue of my colors, and I'm going to have as well a dark button, and basically it's the same thing where I'm just changing the background color. I'm going to have a light and a gray button. I'm going to have a small text light and dark. This row is going to help us when we are creating our keyboard. And these styles are for our results, to see our results, and we are going to get to those later. So for now, I'm going to save these styles, and we can go back to our button here. Here we can just return a touchable opacity that is going to have the style depending on the value of the theme. So here basically we are checking if the button is blue, we are going to put the style blue. If it is gray, we are going to set the gray. If the theme is light, we are going to set the button light, or if it is dark, we are going to set dark. Okay, simply we are passing the prop onPress. This is going to change dynamically depending on the button and its value. Here we have last the title, which means that it is going to be the symbol of the button or the number that it has. And as well, we are changing the style depending on the theme, or if it is blue or gray. If I hit save now and we go back to our app, down here we can just import a button, and if I just call it like that, we can see that we are missing some properties like onPress title. So I'm going to put a title equal to hello, or a number like 3 for example, and an onPress event. And for now I'm going to just set an alert. So if I save now, we can see that we have this button, and if I put dark mode, it's changing. But if I go here to the button and I add the property is blue, which means that this button is gonna be blue, when we change to dark mode, it doesn't change because we are validating that here in the style. Perfect. So as well, if I set it like gray, we can see that it's not changing anymore and looks good in dark mode as well as light mode. Okay, now that we have our button component, we can go here again to our components, and let's create another file, and we are going to call it my keyboard. This component is going to contain all the buttons for our calculator. Let's start by importing React button view text, my styles, as well as my colors. Now we are going to export our function. Inside of my keyboard component, we are going to have our screen as well. And by screen, I mean the text that is going to show what keys you are pressing and what is the result of your operation. So for that, we are going to set first number, that is going to be the first number that the user is going to put before he presses an operation. And when the user presses an operation, we are going to start setting the second number. And after the user finish setting the second number and hits equal, we are going to get the result. And the result is going to be a use state as well, but it's going to be a number or null. This means that this result can be a number or can be null, and we are initializing it with null. Now, before we return anything, I want to create the functions that are going to help us to get the results. First of all, we're going to need a function that is going to help us to set the value to the first number, set the value that each button has, right? So let's declare a function that is going to be handle number press, and it's going to take a button value as a parameter type string. Notice this. And here we are only checking if the first number dot length is less than 10. This is optional. You can change that if you want, but I put it to 10 because if the user puts a bigger number, it's gonna look ugly on the application. So what this function is doing is only setting the first number value, and it's gonna set it to the first number plus the button value. This means that if the user press 1 and then the user press 2, it's not going to be a 3, it's going to be a 12, 1 and then 2, right? The reason that this is not 3 is because these two values are strings. So that's why we are joining them. Now we're going to need another function that is going to handle when the user press an operation. When the user press an operation, we are going to get a value that is going to be the operation, and simply we are going to set the operation value to the value that we are receiving in this function, and then set the second number to the first number, so we can set again the first number with the second number and then do the operation. I hope that makes sense. You're going to see how it works later. After that, we are going to need a function that is going to help us to clean the screen. So it's going to be const clear, and this is going to be a simple function that is going to set all of our variables to null and empty strings. Of course, we are going to need a function that is going to help us to get the results. So this function is going to be called getResults, and here we are going to have a switch statement that is going to take the operation here, depending on the value of the operation. In the case of it is going to be addition or subtraction or division. We are going to take the second number and the first number, and we are going to parse to int. This means that we are going to convert the string value to an integer. So when we do these operations, we are going to get an integer back. After we get this integer, we are going to set the result. And if you remember, we put the result to be a number. So this is going to be working perfectly. The default value is going to clear all our variables, and it's going to set the result to 0. After that, I think we are ready to return something. So here I'm just going to paste these buttons, these views. Basically, what I'm doing here is that if you remember, we have a style row in our styles. You can pull it up here. We have a style row. This is going to put our buttons, this group of buttons, from left to right. So if I close here, and if I go to the app, and after our switch, I'm going to call my keyboard component. Notice that it is imported automatically. And if we hit save, we can see that our keyboard is looking great and it's working now. But we are not doing anything. I mean, we are not showing any results or something. So let's go back to our keyboard component. I'm gonna move this a little bit here. So we have a problem here. Our keyboard is in the middle of the screen, right? If we look here in our styles, we can see that we have a view bottom, and we're gonna use this view bottom to set our keyboard to the bottom of the screen. So let's go back here, and instead of returning this empty thing, we're going to return a view with a style of styles dot view bottom, and I'm going to close it up here. And if I hit save, now because our keyboard is absolute, it has a position absolute, or switch is behind that. We can fix that if we go to our app file and we justify the content. Instead of center, we are gonna put flex start. And if I hit save now, we cannot see our switch anymore, but don't worry. Here we are going to change this view for a safe area view of React Native, and down here as well. And if I hit save now, you can see that our switch is on top of the screen, but inside of the safe view. So we are good to go. Perfect. So now let's go back to my keyboard component. So down here, because we want our number or our operation to be smaller or bigger depending of the length, we need to create another function that is going to be first number display. What this function does is that it's going to help us, let me close the styles, it's going to help us to manage the style of the first number screen depending on the length. So for example, if we have a result, which means that the result is not null, we are going to return our result dot to string, because remember that this result is a number. Here we are checking if the number is less than 5 digits. If it is less than 5 digits, we are going to set the font size to 50. And down here, if the first number length is more than 5 and less than 8, we are going to put the font size to 70. And if the first number dot length is more than 7, we are going to put the font size to 50. As well as we are checking if the first number is equal to null or nothing, we're going to just print a 0, which means that we don't have any number now. And here we are checking if we have a first number and the first number dot length it's less than 6, we are just going to print first number with the normal style. So we have this first number display, we just need to put it in our return function. So after this view, I'm going to just pay this view, and inside this view we can see that we have the screen second number that is going to be above of the first number, and our first number we are going to call it like this inside these curly braces, and we're going to call it like function, and this is going to change depending of the value. If I hit save now and I'm going to press the buttons here, we can see that our screen is changing depending of the value. If this number is more than 5 and less than 8, we are going to have this size, but if we have more than 8, it's going to be smaller, like this one. More than 7, we're going to have font size 50. All right, I hope that makes sense, guys. And if I press equal, we see that we get the result in green, which we are validating here as well. Result is different of null. We're setting the result with this font size and color green, color.result. And pretty much that's it, guys. That's all I wanted to show you today, guys. I hope you liked this video and I hope you've learned something. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what do you think. Remember that you can check my platform Code with Beto, and in the project section you can see this project, and down here you can check the GitHub and download it, as well as the YouTube video if you want to check it out, and as well as other projects. You can check as well my tutorial chat application, my Coinbase clone, and a bunch of projects that I'm going to be putting there as soon as I can. And well, that's it for me, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.